I'd just like to start off with the fact that we're perhaps quite reluctant to be here, and perhaps wouldn't be here if there wasn't the perception that somehow the resolution to this whole issue is about the possibility or the future possibility of addressing one grievance with another grievance. And I say that on the basis of some of the discussions that have been had in the last few months and in a number of the submissions. And basically just want to reiterate that I'm here simply to state clearly what the Ngāi Takatoa position is for Ngāi Takatoa. And people can take it or leave it how they choose, but that's the position of who we are and how we see things. We totally support the idea or the concepts of what Ngāti Kau are trying to achieve. We've got no objections to that at all. Any tribe has a right to seek what it believes is justice for itself. And we have done that in Ngāi Takatoa. But we don't agree that we should become the subject of a feeding feast for everybody else who thinks that what they have should be enhanced by taking from us. And so our submission is basically one that we want to put things into context for ourselves and recognise that everybody else has the same to do as well. But that having recovered from almost a non-existent position up to almost 3 years ago, that we aren't about to give that away again to anybody else, Crown or any other iwi. My name is Rangitane Marsden. I was here in 97 and cut my teeth at the Waitangi Tribunal when I made the fatal mistake of saying to Ngāi Takatoa at Waimanani Marae, how can I help? And 15 years later, I'm still here, and we are now back where we started 15 years ago. I heard the comments this morning about how far we have progressed. And last night I went to Kaitaia to get me a feed from McDonald's, which is progress in some sense. But whilst I was sitting there, I observed a young Māori girl scrounging in the gutter for cigarette butts. And I said to myself, my, how we have progressed. 15 years and we are still talking the same old talk. Who is the chief of the chiefs? When the reality is the people are the chiefs of the chiefs. And we are obviously not doing our job if the people are unhappy or if the people haven't progressed. I drive down the streets of Oanui out here. I look at the empty, derelict houses and the emptiness that's within those places, and I say to myself, where have the people gone? They have either gone to that great place in the sky, or they have gone to better opportunities, because we have still failed to produce those opportunities within our own rohes. And I say this as a lesson to all of us five iwi, because when we were here in 97, we were fighting with the runanga o muri whenua over who should have the mandate to settle the claim. And at that time, each iwi presented the responsibility that we wanted to take it upon ourselves to do what was right for ourselves, as well as the people of muri whenua. And I think we have failed in that drastically. I think we have failed because we are now, having disposed of the runanga, are now attempting to dispose of each other. Our presentation in 97 was about the one body, the need to work together, that without an arm or a leg you're only half a person, without an eye you're blind, without an ear you can't hear. And the kōrero and submission we made to the tribunal at that time was that the five iwi needed to work together and become the one body. And here we are today, fighting to be which part of that body, and almost reinventing the new version of the Frankenstein movie, where we have to cut each other to pieces and come here and ask a crown construct to sew us back together again. And at the same time condemn the crown constructs that we so vehemently, allegedly hate, to ask them to facilitate that process. What's wrong with ourselves is what we should be asking. What's wrong with ourselves when we have our hapu turning up in the last few days saying what they say about us? What's wrong with ourselves when we forget to talk to each other in the way that we used to talk to up to a few years ago? That the conversation is now so thick on the desks in front of us that if we need to say something, I have to write you a submission and you have to respond to me. And we talk about the qualities of being Māori and all those special values that make us so unique, and yet we can't apply them on an everyday basis when we want to sit down and talk to each other. So we talk to each other through our lawyers, we talk through our submissions, we talk through the tribunal, and we ask other people to fix our problems. And so have we progressed in the last 15 years? I think not. Let's get back to the table and talk to ourselves like we did. I want to say to the tribunal, the forum was made up of good people, and there are still good people. There is good leadership in Te Huku o Te Ika. And each of the tribes put up that leadership to go and do the job that needed to be done to get the job done. I heard reference to this wasn't the claim of Mother Teresa. No, it was the claim of the Vietnam, that it was so difficult to settle that at a certain point not too long ago, there was the view of the Crown that we should walk away. We basically agreed that if we needed to progress, it needed to be done collectively. We needed to find the outcomes and the resolutions that we could all agree to live with, and we could only achieve that by sitting down and working through those issues. The rights of individual iwi to go where they want to go, that's their right. We agree to that. But to then come back and lay conditions on others on how they should behave or how they should progress was never part of that understanding. So we left the doors open for people to participate as their mana and as their willingness allowed them to do. And 4 of us went one way, another went another way, and that's the way of Te Huku. But when we were together, we were a force to be reckoned with. And if we are going to achieve a future that we dream for the young people that we talk about all the time, then we need to get back together. We need to sort out the issues that prevent us from agreeing, and we need to move forward. Te Huku, as the tail of the fish, is obviously what was referred to yesterday as tere tere. It goes one way and it goes another way, but we're not progressing. So obviously there's a flaw in that statement. What I'm saying is the position of Ngāi Takoto is well known to the other particular tribes. We can't and won't give up any more because there's nothing more to give. The compromises that people talk about are not as great as what we in Ngāi Takoto have given. We've evolved from a traditional to a contemporary in order to ensure that there was room on the peninsula for everybody else. We gave lands to Ngāti Kuri so that they could have something of substance. We withdrew our cross claims in Naupori and gave them land so that they could have some substance. We agreed not to cross the boundary over here at the Rangitane River, which is the boundary between Patukoraha and Ngāi Takoto, for the purposes of ensuring that Ngāti Kahu could keep what it has on its side of that river. We had the disputes with Te Raroa over who owned the Tamake block or the Sweetwater farm, and came to an agreement and a compromise that we're not happy to live with, but if we're going to move forward, there's a requirement to accept that compromises needed to be made, and we made those compromises. What Ngāi Takoto are saying, and it's well written and documented with OTS, is that we are not going to compromise anymore. Pat Snedden is right. Whether you love him, hate him, whatever, he was imposed on us because he was the wonder boy for Ngāti Kahu. He came to the forum with an honesty and with an approach that we never got from anyone else. And as a result of the willingness to sit down, facilitate and go the extra mile, we were able to recover from a non-existent existence or lack of to where Ngāi Takoto are today. And on the basis of that, we were able to make concessions in respect of what we believe were our traditional rights to other particular areas. So we're not totally satisfied with the settlement, but we know it's the best that we can do. And the fear for us is not from the Crown, but from our own respective neighbouring iwi. And that's why I asked the questions of Rarawa this morning, is where do they see us in the picture? Because everybody talks about everybody else, but very few mention Ngāi Takoto. And so my question to Ngāti Kahu in terms of our being here for these hearings is where do they see us? And I'll just make the point quite clear. We are not a hapu of Ngāti Kahu. We are not a hapu of Pātū. We are Ngāi Takoto. And Ngāi Takoto is also not a hapu of Te Rarawa. So until people come to accept that, and then come to accept that we are not going to go anywhere, and come to accept that we are not going to concede anymore, then there will be no settlement. But as it stands, we are prepared to settle and move forward. But as Te Aupori have said and mentioned, should there be any attempt to take anything of what little we have left, then the claims will unravel. We'll be honest about that. It's not going to unravel by choice. It's going to unravel by the need to maintain our identity that was all gone by 1846. And it wasn't gone because we were the ones that gave it away. It was gone because other iwi and other parties chose to get rid of us because we just didn't seem to be around. That's no excuse for anything. We're here, we have nowhere else to go, and so we're not going to go anywhere or concede any further. That's the position of Ngāi Takoto. I'm sorry that it's not in the context of how we should be playing this game, but this is my marae. This is now 2012. This is now 15 years later. And this is now when I think we need to be bold, as the tribunal has said. Not the tribunal be bold. Us iwi be bold. Our leadership be bold. That's where the answers lie. Not in anyone else determining how it should be for us. If Ngāti Kahu want more, fine. Have the conversation with the enemy that you so call them and work it out. Don't take from us that have very little left. And that's at the end of my submission, because I know there's more important things. And Ngā Pui, go from here and take this as an example of what happens when you don't get it right. And tell Sunny Toe and all of those people down there that we've been at it for 26 years and we're still not there. And if they want to play the same game of deciding who's the chief of the chiefs, then all you have to do and tell them is that the people are the chiefs of the chiefs. And if you don't take care of your people, then they have every right to move ahead without you. Kia ora tātou.